So, who here uses Facebook or some kind of social media platform? Okay, I can't really see with the lights, but I'm going to guess it's something like maybe 3/4 of you or so. Something like 74% of US adults regularly use social media in of some kind of form, in some kind of way. Who here woke up this morning in the first maybe 10, 15 minutes of your morning, checked your news feed, or had to fire off a tweet or see what someone on the other side of the world was doing? Maybe a lot of you did that. And admittedly, I may have done that myself too. So we all use social media, and I'm a professor who studies social media. I'm a business school professor at the University of Pittsburgh, and I'm really interested in kind of like the day-to-day use of social media for companies. But over the years of studying this, I've become more and more interested in the user side of social media. How do people use social media? How does that really impact us? And this is really important because you see there, 3/4 of the US adult population are using this fairly, still relatively new communications tool. If we drill into these numbers and we look at younger people, and that's kind of what I'm more particularly interested in because I think younger people could be a little bit more vulnerable, the numbers go up. If we look at 12 to 17-year-olds, and we look at what they use and sort of how frequently they use it, we see things like YouTube and Facebook, and Facebook I'm going to talk about a lot, upwards of 80% adoption among 12 to 17-year-olds, and somewhere between 25 and 30% of them say they use it, quote-unquote, all the time, which really means probably about 15 to 25 times a day. For 18 minutes here and 5 minutes there and so on. And these, I call them doses of social media. They really add up. And so, like I said, I spent a lot of time thinking about how companies can use social media. And then if you think about advertisers, think about, say, the Fortune 500, upwards of 90+% of those companies are all on social media and have social media strategies and are advertising and marketing to people on social media. It makes me start to wonder, well, we have this relatively new communications tool that people are using, and people are using a lot and seem to be enjoying using. And we have all the advertisers and the marketers and the commercial side, all there trying to reach out to these people. Is this necessarily a good thing? And so I dug into the literature. So I first turned to sort of the literature in psychology to figure out, well, has anyone studied this? Has anyone looked at sort of the psychological effects of social media use? They have, and it's all kind of a nice, positive, rosy story. So some established benefits. So, it can expose people to new ideas. It helps people keep in touch with each other. Helps shy people, a form of expression, a way to sort of establish and signal their social identities. It can enhance self-esteem, in part because of that and overall well-being. So that's fantastic. But is it all really the thumbs up? And I tend to be a more skeptical kind of person. So I sort of wondered, is there a dark side to all of this? And really that hadn't been examined. So I kind of put on my consumer psychologist hat and wondered, what are some downsides? And how does social media use really affect offline behaviors, right? So it's not just what I do while I'm on Facebook or while I'm tweeting or Instagramming or whatever else it might be, but after those 5 minutes or 10 minutes or half an hour, what then happens? Does this affect what I do later on in the day? And does this kind of have some cumulative effect that, that we need to be worried about as a society and then, also as marketers professionally for me? All right, so what we did, so we thought, okay, well, let's run a study. And let's set this up, in essence, like a little clinical trial. Right? So let's do an experiment. So we got people to come into our lab, and we had them use social media, and we looked at how it affects their self-control. Self-control is important because it really is a major self-regulatory function that impacts lots of decisions we make. And I'll show you some of those sorts of decisions. And so we really want to see, is there an adverse effect on self-control in a bunch of different domains? Because self-control is really so fundamental. So we had people, we randomly divided them into two groups. They either browsed their Facebook page or their news feed for just 5 minutes, or we sent them to CNN. I mean, it doesn't have to be CNN. We had other studies where we sent them to other types of websites, but the point was they weren't social media websites. They were just sort of a control condition. So we did that, and then we had them, at the end of the lab session, make a choice. Healthy choice or an unhealthy choice? Would you like a snack? Do you want sort of the more healthy granola bar, or do you want the less healthy chocolate chip cookie? And we also divided people based on what they told us in terms of who they connect with on Facebook into two groups based on the strength of the social ties they have. So basically, were they communicating mostly with their close friends on Facebook, their strong ties? Or on the other hand, were they kind of in touch with those long-lost friends from high school that they don't really know anymore, the acquaintances, the weak ties? And we wanted to see if that mattered as well, because communicating with social ties that are strong is sort of, these are the more meaningful relationships. I really care about those people, so I'm probably going to maybe be more affected by whatever is going on while I'm on social media because I care about the people that are on there as well. So what happened was, for the people with the acquaintances, predominantly communicating with acquaintances, really no effect of using Facebook versus CNN on their healthy versus unhealthy food choice. But when we looked at people who are communicating predominantly with their close friends, we found that using Facebook really drastically and dramatically increased the likelihood of people choosing the unhealthy snack. So, perfect example of a failure of self-control. And I've only got a short amount of time, so I won't tell you all the replications we did, but we replicated this a lot. We used apples instead of granola bars. We tried different sorts of food, and then we thought, okay, so we've got this problem where Facebook might make you fat, right? If you're interacting with, maybe that's my problem. If you're interacting with your close friends on Facebook, people you care about, meaningful social ties, then there's something going on here that is triggering lower self-control versus people in a control group. And so we looked at this in other food domains, but also some other follow-up studies in non-food domains. So we looked at persistence with mentally challenging tasks, right? Another example of self-regulation and self-control is, if it's tough, how soon do I kind of give up? And so we actually were kind of cruel to our participants. We gave them word scrambles, anagrams that were impossible to solve. And so we wanted to see how long they took until they sort of threw in the towel and said, you guys, I'm done. And about 33 seconds sooner, people in the Facebook condition versus the CNN condition gave up. We also looked at this back in the healthy domain, and what we found is, why is this happening? Psychologists and consumer psychologists, we want to understand the mechanism here. So we found that using Facebook actually increased your self-esteem, which in turn led to the reduced self-control. So in other words, I feel good about myself, and I'm going to let my guard down. And so we call this a licensing effect. So I feel good, I feel happy about life, I'm connected to all these people I really care about, I feel like I'm socially active. And as a result of that, I kind of let my guard down and don't have those self-regulatory mechanisms, the self-control that I should have when I'm faced with these dilemmas, whether it's mentally challenging tasks or food. Don't have it on the slide, but literally hot out of the lab yesterday afternoon, I got some data from my team. We've also found the same effect with people's inclinations to go online shopping, which is really concerning. I mean, to advertisers and marketers, they probably think that's fantastic, but to the rest of us, it's basically the more likely, basically the more you use Facebook, the more likely you are to want to go online shopping. And so this effect, same experimental setup also is there. So that's a problem. So we then looked at the general population, and we looked at a couple of things. Same sort of idea, frequency of using Facebook. We controlled for a bunch of things, and we looked at health and financial measures. So for health, we looked at BMI and binge eating behaviors, and for financial, we looked at people's credit scores and how much kind of month-to-month debt they carry on credit and credit cards. And what we're looking for is really fundamental, longer-run failures of self-control. Unfortunately, the more frequently Facebook was used, the higher people's BMIs, body mass index, the more likely they were to binge eat. On the financial well-being measures, the same pattern, unfortunately, also. So the lower credit scores and the more likely to carry month-to-month debt. And this is after controlling for all sorts of things. And so, it begs the question, what can we do about this, right? Should we ban Facebook or Twitter or Instagram? It's probably not the solution. What I think we need to do is really have some awareness of these effects. So, there's a lot of literature on debiasing. So if we're aware that this could happen, that might be enough for us to kind of fix ourselves or kind of catch ourselves when we're doing this. But that's fine for, say, us. But what about those 12 to 17-year-olds who are using this stuff all the time, right? So for them, we need to rethink how they spend their time on social media. Maybe these frequent doses aren't a good idea, but maybe once a day kind of thing. We need to think about how we socialize online. So these sort of broadcasting mechanisms, which is what Facebook is all about, might not be the best way to communicate with close friends. Maybe we need more intimate forms of social communication online for that. And so I'm just going to leave you now with a couple of little lasting thoughts, maybe to scare you a little bit. 11% of the world's population is on Facebook alone, billions of people. 22% of teens are on there 10-plus times a day, and the average visit is 18 minutes. And so our experiments were doses of 5 minutes. So we're talking, much, much more than that 5-minute dose is happening per visit on average 18 minutes for teens. So they're very, very susceptible to this. About half of us check it when we wake up in the morning. It's one of the first things we do, which is, I think, also problematic. But what we really don't have a great handle on is really what these adverse psychological effects are. And so hopefully what I've done is made you rethink this. And the idea is to get people to be more aware of there's some downsides of these technologies too. Thank you.